The Fast and the Furious is a very unlikely franchise. Somehow they produce more films than the likes of Transformers, Harry Potter, and even Lord of the Rings. We went from 2 guys in a quarter mile to space. And while I do love some of the entries in the series, some are far from good. Still, with the 10th of the series coming out, I thought it'd be a good opportunity and some fun to look at what this series would look like if it was rebooted. I mean, Vin can't do this forever, and it seems like The Rock is already tapped out, so let's take a look at something that I don't think should happen, but who could possibly replace his characters for a younger, newer generation? So today we're looking at the first movie, and surprisingly some really iconic characters. Today we're going to tackle Dom, Brian, Letty, Mia, so let's recast Fast and the Furious for today. First up, let's tackle Brian, the undercover cop who feels somewhere between surfer and lover boy. He has a flavor to him which feels a little out of control, but still has a good personality for that audience surrogate. Now, he needs to buy into Dom's way, and I think Paul Walker, of course, does incredibly well, especially in the first film. Now, it's not about replacing Paul Walker here, but instead having that similar flavor, but updated. Someone who feels a little bit like that riffraff, and has clearly made some questionable choices, but he could still be believable as an undercover cop. Now, I ended up on Dacre Montgomery, who feels the exact same way that Brian does to me. He doesn't necessarily feel like a cop, which Brian never did, but he's old enough to be believable in that role. He has that rough exterior, which shows that he'd work well in this environment, but he's got this little bit of lover boy vibe to him. He's played a little bit more of negative characters in the past, but I think he can turn on the charm and really play into this one, and really bring this into a new area.
Did you just slap me? I did. Weird, right? Now I'm gonna be here every day for what seems like the rest of my life, and I'm sure that you are too. So let's make a deal. Don't sit near me or him, and we'll be okay.
So Dacre Montgomery as Brian O'Connor. Next up, let's tackle Mia. Now, Mia is one of the weakest points of the series. She's got very little to go on, and it's not about the actress, but more what she's working with. She's kind of there, especially in the first movie, as kind of arm candy. I think we can improve on this and get someone who actually feels like their own person, rather than just being Brian's love interest and the sister of Dom. I ended up landing on Zazie Beetz, who has always been an actress I love watching on screen. And it's her performances in things like Atlanta, where shows she could be really great in this role. She fits really well for me, especially an updated version of Mia, and someone who's very believable in this role. So Zazie Beetz as Mia. Next up, let's tackle Letty. Now, Letty needs to be rough, but interesting. Someone who feels right at home in this series. A lot of that comes down to Michelle Rodriguez's performance. She feels lived in. She doesn't feel like a character. Something to that similar caliber, but also with that rough sexiness that's attached. I think Ronda Rousey is probably the closest thing in terms of build to this character, but I don't think her acting is really up to snuff, and honestly she's been in the Fast franchise already. So I end up landing on more of a softer choice, but still can play badass. I end up landing on Ana de Armas. I mean, she's got that badass nature to her, a little bit softer, but it's really hard to mimic that Michelle Rodriguez flavor, but she's got that mystery that Letty just pulls off so well. It's not an exact translation, but I think she has the idea and the feel here. So Ana de Armas as Letty. Lastly, let's tackle Dom. Now, he is by far the hardest to cast. I mean, you can't deny that Vin Diesel just is Fast and the Furious. Him talking about family and that voice, without his presence, it isn't the same. Vin is really irreplaceable in this role, and really lightning in a bottle for that first film. But I end up going with a different flavor. Similar vibe of power and presence, but a different way. The main I went with is Winston Duke, who is electric on screen in Black Panther. He has the body type, the demanding presence that we need here, and honestly, he's not a big enough name yet that I can still buy into him in a role like this one. He feels perfect to not just mimic Vin, but do his own thing, but in the same style. I can see him working really well with Zazie Beetz as his chill sister, and playing off the coolness of Dacre Montgomery. He's got this way about him that I think he could be strong silent as Dom is, but really pull it in with the gravitas.
We have watched and listened from the mountains. We have watched with disgust as your technological advancements have been overseen by time.
So Winston Duke as Dom Toretto. So there is my cast for a reboot of the Fast franchise. If that is the first film, let me know if you'd like to see the other characters. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.